alien spacecraft did not crash in Roswell, New Mexico in 1947.
You know flat earthers, I guarantee it. But you don't know who they are because they're afraid of talking about it.
This is not a test. This is your emergency broadcast system.
Hello and welcome to the 27th annual Subliminal Deception Podcast, your weekly dose of conspiracy theory bullshit. My name is Cody, and I'm joined by my pal Phil. How are you?
Doing good, buddy. How about yourself?
Not doing too bad. I know we always talk about the weather too much, but I gotta just say, last week, nothing but rain, and then today, or this week, it's like 80, 90 degrees, and it's, I don't like the weather flip-flop. I'm sure you remember that.
Yeah, it's a rough time of year up in the Midwest right around now.
You know, I was going to tell you, so I went to Jimmy John's today for lunch, and, obviously you used to work there. Do they require you to wear those hats?
Yes, they do.
Okay. All right. Is there, do they force you to wear them a certain way? Because I see a lot of the kids have, the hats with that, sideways, how they wear it sideways, you know?
That's probably some corporate bullshit where they think that, kids wear it like that to be cool. It's probably some 40-year-old asshole who remembers when that was cool in the 90s.
I seen that only the girls are allowed to wear visors?
I think it's if they have hair, that goes... I know the dudes can wear visors too, but a lot of them wear it because they have to put their hair back in a bun. So they either put it through, the baseball cap, the back end, or over the top.
Ah, okay. Well, if any Jimmy John's employees are out there, why don't you tell us if you enjoy wearing the hat? But anyway, Phil, so I heard you talked about earlier some interesting character that you happened to stumble upon in the lovely state of Arizona.
Yeah, just another episode of People of Mesa, you know. So I was waiting for my lift on the way to the Iowa State game, and this dude comes by on roller skates, and this guy's got to be in his late 40s, and he's sporting fucking, booty shorts, a fucking cut-off t-shirt.
I think it was a crop tops. I think that's what he called a crop top.
Was that a crop top? All right, it's a crop top with his gut hanging out. And he had a big fucking woolly beard, fucking hair. And his face was covered in what I thought was paint at first, but I think now it might be sunscreen. But... I actually didn't take a picture of him because I was afraid he might fucking try to bite me like he's a zombie dude. But when I was in my lift, we caught up with him, and I got a great picture, which I'm going to post. But I was thinking to myself, damn, dude, I have never been in my life that free as that individual is right then at that moment.
D you mention he was on rollerblades, too?
He was on rollerblades, and he was just loving it. Just fucking big smile, waving at people, just going along.
That's, we should say, too, his shirt, his crop top, said chill on it. That's what it said, right? Chill?
Those were definitely not men's clothes.
But I'm saying they spelled it like Netflix spells it. I imagine... It was a ripoff of the Netflix and chill thing, but this guy had it on his shirt for some reason. I don't know. I guess he was chilling, technically. He was having the time of his life.
Yeah, that cocaine, it's a hell of a fucking drug. I don't know. Whatever he was on, fucking shrooms maybe, but he was living it.
I don't know if you'd go rollerblading on shrooms, would you? I don't know.
I'll have to ask him the next time I see him.
See if you can find where he lives and just ask if he can do any sweet tricks on his rollerblades or something. Do you remember the old Disney movie about the rollerbladers? I can't remember the name of it. It might have been Skate or I don't even remember what it was. What if that
was it a late 90s, early 2000s?
Yeah. What if that guy was the main actor from that movie, and now, obviously, he's a failed actor, so maybe that's just how he lives his life now. He's trying to resume the glory days of when he was the main protagonist in said Disney movie?
Yeah, I don't know. Those people usually, they always tell you, like, those former child star type people, like, not even child star, just like they were in one little thing. Like, they were always like, oh, I was an extra in blah, blah, blah. Like, okay, I didn't ask. Like, I'm just trying to drink my coffee, sir.
He's like, do you know who I am? Do you remember the movie Along Came Polly?
Yeah.
What you just said reminded me of, God, I can't even think of his name. Ben Stiller's best friend, who was like a childhood actor, and now he like tells everybody that he's got all these big roles coming up.
Yeah.
That's what it reminds me of what you just said. We just can't let it go. Can't let it go. Anyway, Phil, should we dive in here? Should we get started?
Yeah, let's go. I heard you got a big one today.
Yeah, it's a little longer than I normally do, but I don't think the audience will care. Now, this is something that I had been thinking about for quite a long time, just because, you know, it's a subject that I'm really interested in, and I don't even know if it's technically a conspiracy, but it's along the lines of mysterious. So, and I wanted to do King Tut's curse.
Awesome.
Yeah, so I actually learned a lot of things that I didn't know, and once we get to all the people dying from alleged curse, do you remember hearing about, they suspect that there's like black mold or bacteria in the tomb, and that's why they were all dying? Have you heard that, like, new theory?
No, I haven't heard that. Not at all.
Like, okay, so it was some sort of fungi or something that was within King Tut's tomb, and when they opened it, it released the spores. And obviously, like, black mold is, like, super fucking deadly. You know what I mean?
Yeah, that shit used to grow in my house.
That's not good.
Back out there. Yeah,
that's not good at all.
It was that, those English fucking houses don't have very good ventilation in the bathrooms, so.
Ooh. Yeah, that shit's very bad for you. But anyway, when we talk about the deaths, a lot of their deaths aren't even related to, like, illnesses. So I don't even know where that theory is coming out of the woodwork, but we'll get there. We're gonna start the journey off, basically with the guy who found the tomb, British archaeologist and Egyptologist Howard Carter, along with his sponsored Lord, I had to look this guy's name up, Carnarvon, Lord Carnarvon. I'm pretty sure that's how his name's pronounced. Anyway, they would spend many years and like a shit ton of money in the Valley of the Kings in Egypt, hoping to find the tomb of some pharaoh. I mean, obviously, I don't think they were specifically looking for King Tut. They just wanted to find something. You know what I mean?
Oh yeah, there was big money back then.
Yeah.
The story about King Tut's crazy just because of how big they built up like his legend, even though he wasn't even like that great of a pharaoh.
No, I didn't really include too much information about him specifically because, like you said, the only thing that's really interesting about him is that he was a boy king. Because I think he was elected pharaoh when he was 9, right? 8 or 9 or something like that.
Yeah, I think he ascended to the throne when he was really young.
Well, something I learned about him too that I didn't know was apparently when he was reigning, Egypt was split into like 2 sectors. And he was like the leader of the Lower Egypt, and some other guy was the leader of Upper Egypt. Had you ever heard that before? Yeah. And then I learned that he married his sister. But, now it's like, ew, gross. But during this time, I'm pretty sure all the pharaohs were like marrying only their family members repeatedly over and over and over and over again.
Yeah, they got to keep that bloodline clean.
Yeah.
Don't let nobody else in.
If only they knew what happens when you start inbreeding and all of that shit.
Yeah, they actually showed like a recreation of what King Tut might have looked like, and he is like central Pittsburgh inbred. Like it is bad. bad.
I'm gonna actually mention this quick before we continue. So a fan of ours had messaged me. I don't know if she messaged you too, but she was saying she was talking to some coworker or friend or something, and they had mentioned that she was from Pittsburgh, And she told me in her mind, all she wanted to yell at her was hashtag leave Pittsburgh. I was like, man, you should have fucking roasted her. That would have been amazing.
That would have been great.
But anyway, back to the story here. So, they're searching through the Valley of the Kings. Now, when they were searching, most of the tombs that were buried there had already been looted by tomb robbers and all of that. Basically, people just stealing all the gold and shit. So, as we're going to find out, a lot of them believe that there just wasn't anything left. So when they found King Tut, it was crazy because there wasn't supposed to be anything there, basically. Now, the main guy, Howard Carter, would begin working in Egypt at the age of 17, and it would be another 31 years before he would discover King Tut's tomb. So he worked in Egypt a long fucking time.
Dude, he fucking stuck with it. Like,
He did. He was determined, but he wasn't always searching for, like, just say King Tut. So, in 1889, Carter would take the job as Inspector General of Monuments for Upper Egypt. Now, what does an Inspector General of Monuments do?
Well, during this time, the British Empire was basically looting the world's monuments and bringing them back to London museums. So I'm willing to bet it has something to do with getting the shit out of the country.
So are you going to stand there and tell me that Howard Carter isn't a native Egyptian name?
No, I do not believe so. So yeah, when we went to those museums in London, all of that shit was stolen during the Victorian era. Like, all of it. From everywhere.
So, you're not on Howard Carter's side then, I take it. He's a thief.
Dude. Like, it's good that, like, we can see this shit, you know? I mean, imagine if he didn't take it. By now, it would have been grabbed by some fucking asshole and sold to a billionaire. And in their home. Like, it's awesome that we get to we get to look at it. I mean, we went to that museum and saw the fucking Rosetta Stone. You know, like,
that's true. That's very true. So, continuing on with Howard Carter here, in 1905, he resigned from his Inspector General job, and then in 1907, he would be hired by Lord Carnarvon. Now, George Edward Stanhope Molyneux Herbert, the 5th Earl of Carnarvon, was a man who we just said, Lord Carnarvon. Around this time, if you remember, cars were just coming into their own. And since he was a rich dude, he loved to spend his time racing automobiles. That was like his hobby, even though they were just new. I think we actually talked about racing in Britain right when the automobiles were created in our airship episode. Do you remember that?
Yeah. They were kind of considered like rich people's toys.
Yeah. Well, do you think the Earl of Carnarvon, how much money do you think he has? A lot?
The Earl of Carnarvon, in back then dollars?
Yeah, in back then dollars.
I'm willing to say he probably, let's say it's 20 million pounds.
Damn. Okay, so he could afford some cars.
Well, no, I'm saying like that's what would be a lot of money back then.
Oh,
like,
but I'm
some rich Earl, I'm guessing like, multimillionaire. Like, it's probably all tied up, but
I'm assuming if you're an Earl, then you probably are pretty wealthy, right?
Yeah, anyone like that was the time when like post Victoria, like there was a ton of rich motherfuckers in England. So
you know what's funny about this story that we're gonna see? Like it literally follows a trope of like Egyptian treasure hunter movies where you have the archaeologist, then you always have the rich guy. Do you ever notice that? Like, maybe they're just basing it off of these two characters, but it's kind of funny. So anyway,
the trope is pretty true throughout. I mean, even nowadays, you'll have like the guy out in the dirt actually digging the shit up, and then once he finds something, the rich person flies in and takes a picture with it. So.
Well, that's funny because that's basically exactly what's going to happen in this story. So anyway, the Lord, he raced until 1901, and then he got in a bad car accident, and he was injured, and then for some reason, I'm not sure what illness that he got, but something was lingering with him, and because of the damp English winters, he would spend the winter in Egypt to try to return his health, I guess.
Get that dry air.
Yeah. Remember, I don't know if have you ever heard of like the TB clinics and all of that?
Yeah, I have heard about it.
Where they're like, oh, you need to go to an arid environment because it'll kill off the fucking tuberculosis and stuff. They had some
It'll
weird,
clean the shit out of their lungs.
Yeah, they had some weird beliefs. So anyway, 2 years after his car crash and him visiting Egypt, he decided, why don't I pick up a new hobby? And that was archaeology. So Lord Carnarvon, his first season, they refer to them as seasons, right? Like I think it's over a span of a year is what they consider a season, or within a certain time frame of a year. So I'm going to be using the word season quite a bit here. His first season, any guess what you think he found in his first year?
VD.
He caught a venereal disease when he was doing archaeology.
That's what I mean. I imagine if you're on vacation in exotic land, you're gonna, sample the local delicacies. So.
Well, you're pretty close. He found a mummified cat, and it was still in its coffin.
Oof.
That's kind of cool, actually. I'd want that. That's kind of cool. But anyway, and then after he kind of got sick of trying to be an amateur archaeologist and wasn't really finding much, he decided to hire Howard Carter, because Howard Carter was obviously extremely well experienced. Now, from when he hired him, they would spend several more seasons working together, excavating the Valley of the Kings until World War I started. And then when World War I started, they couldn't really continue their work until the war was over, obviously. So,
yeah.
They finally resumed in 1917, and Carter, when he was searching the Valley of the Kings, he found like 3 of Tutankhamun's items. They were items that had like either his sigil or his mark or whatever, said his name on it. So he was starting to believe that, hey, they were really close to this king. Because I think they knew he existed, but they weren't positive if he existed. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So, from 1917, after 5 years, Carter and Lord Carnarvon had been searching this entire area, hadn't really had any luck, and Lord Carnarvon was about ready to give up and just say, hey, Carter, I'm not paying you anymore. So it sounded like Carter convinced him, hey, give me one more season. Just give me one more season. We'll find something.
No, Daddy, come on. Let's keep looking. It's all right.
He just
that money flowing.
I was just saying, he just wants to suckle on that money teat just a little longer. So during their season, in November 1st, 1922, Carter began his final season working in the Valley of Kings by having his workers expose the ancient workmen's huts at the base of the tomb of Ramesses VI. After exposing and documenting the huts, Carter and his workmen began to excavate the ground beneath them. By the 4th day of work, they had found something, a step that had been cut into a rock. Now, on a different podcast, I had heard this how they initially found the first step told a little different. So how I had heard is one of the workers had tripped on a rock, right? And it shoved it out of the way, and then they took notice of the step or something that was leading down to the tomb. So it might not have actually been Carter himself who found it, but it was one of his workers, and obviously it's going to lead to the tomb itself.
Oh, I'm sure he took plenty of credit. Don't worry about it.
He's like, get out of here, Esteban. I found it.
Gave him a little fucking smack.
I can't imagine they treated their workers very well. Maybe I'm wrong.
No, I imagine they're locals and they're not highly paid.
What's Indiana Jones, that little boy slave that he has? What's his name?
Oh, God, I forgot what that kid's name was. Mr. Jones! Mr. Jones!
Yeah. He probably treats his workers like Indiana Jones treats that poor little boy slave.
Probably. Honestly, back then it was pretty fucking bad for everybody. Like, if you weren't at least middle management, like, they could literally piss on you and it'd be fine. Like,
Yeah, that brings up a good point. So Indiana Jones is obviously racing to beat the Nazis from getting the Ark of the Covenant, right? Wait,
Yeah.
does he have the boy slave in that one, or is it the second one? No, it's the second one.
it's the second one.
Yeah, okay. So, well, he's battling Nazis, and he has his own little Asian boy slave. It's a little hypocritical, Indy. That's all I'm saying.
Yeah, it's a little bit like, where'd you find that kid anyway? They never really talked about that.
All I remember is, like, there's a shootout in the restaurant, and then the little boy's driving the car, the, like, getaway car. Like, okay. Anyway, those are classic movies, but, moving on here. So, once they started uncovering the steps, they basically knew what they had. I believe what they did is they dug the stairs out, they found the sealed doors. On the tabs of the doors, they could see the markings of King Tut, so they knew he was in there. So at this point, Carter halted work altogether, and he sent off word to Lord Carnarvon to quickly come back to Egypt to show him what he had found. To have him, because it's his investment to like go down and see what they had found. To protect To protect his interests, apparently, Carter who made all the workers sit and block the entrance to the tomb. Like, they had to sit in the stairwell and block it so nobody else could find it or see what they had found.
Yeah, I imagine that there was people probably just kind of like lurking around, like seeing if he found anything, just to raid it.
Exactly. Like, I mean, when you find something like that, and what you're going to find inside of it that we're going to learn is, like, you could have been extremely fucking wealthy if you found this thing.
Oh, yeah.
So, if we remember, he found it on the 1st, right? And Lord Carnarvon didn't arrive till November 23rd. So it took him a while to get from England back to Egypt. So the Lord then showed up with his daughter, and then they were going to finally continue the excavation.
I'm sure it's not like rich people to take their sweet fucking time, so I'm sure he fucking just as fast as he could,
Well, okay, so I don't think he could have flown in 1922, could have he?
No. He would have had to take a steamer. They didn't really have, like, planes were still made out of canvas and sticks back then. Like, there's no way.
How about trains?
Was there a train that went to Egypt? You would have had to take a steamer. It would have been faster just to take, because the Suez Canal, boats went down there all the time. So.
Okay. Well, anyway, it took him, fucking 3 weeks, basically, to get there. So, when he arrived, obviously, they continued, and I mentioned the sealed door with the symbol of King Tut around the edges. And then they noticed that the first door was partially damaged, and it looked like robbers had been able to break a little piece of it and get inside. So they were really, really, really worried that it had already been raided. And by all accounts, through the first room, the raiders did get in there and took shit out of there. In fact, I think they said they believed that they actually had went in and out twice, but it kind of looked like on their second way out, it had collapsed a little bit, and they couldn't get big items out of it or something like that. So they had found it. They had found the first room anyway, and taken shit out of there, but they haven't. Obviously, the tomb's a lot bigger than they know of. So continuing through, after the first room, it was a 26-foot passageway to another sealed door. And this is the one where as far as I remember, the robbers didn't get to it. So they spent all that time clearing out all of that area to get to the next sealed door. And it was just like the first one where it had King Tut's name kind of on it. Now, once they proceeded through this sealed door, it revealed the antechamber, which is just a smaller room that will then lead to the larger room. I guess kind of, if you imagine like a lobby, I guess, kind of. Yeah. That's probably... What if you just start going into hotel, like walk into a hotel and be like, I'm in the antechamber right now, aren't I, busboy?
Ask the hostess, where's the antechamber?
Now, what's interesting is in the antechamber, as they described it, there was stuff piled nearly to the ceiling. It was filled with boxes, chairs, couches, and it had fucking gold everywhere, just gold everywhere. And how Howard Carter described it, he called it organized chaos, which is a fucking oxymoron anyway, but...
You know what I'm thinking when I heard that? I bet
What?
the workers were so ready to be done with that shit. They just, should we put it in here nice? Nope. And then just threw the shit in there.
They're like, he's fucking dead. Who cares? Just throw it in there. They got
Yeah.
Anubis will take care of it from here or whatever.
We're not even going to bother locking the first door. Like, just shut it and cover it with some fucking dirt. I'm done.
Now, what was interesting here was in the room, there was 2 life-size statues of King Tut that were facing each other. Now, once they were in this room, it appeared to them that this room had been broken into from a different passage. But for some reason, it's almost like they might have got in here, but couldn't get anything out of there. If that makes sense, especially since there's fucking gold and shit laying everywhere. But I guess it could have maybe just been a crack or something. I don't really know. But anyway, they still didn't know where the burial chamber is. Keep that in mind. So they spent all their time carefully removing all of this shit because obviously it's extremely delicate. So while they were carefully removing it and they got most of it out of there, then they took notice of the 2 lifelike statues of the king. And when they moved them, they could notice another sealed door that apparently nobody noticed beforehand. So, and then when they finally removed them, went into the door, obviously this is the burial chamber of King Tut. Now, it was, they waited a year and a half after discovery before they were actually able to lift the lid of the coffin, because they wanted to be very careful to make sure nothing broke and all of that obviously makes sense, right?
Yeah. You wouldn't think back then they would be that careful. Like, you would think back then they would just like, fuck it, grab the crowbars.
Well, think of how many years this guy spent looking for a tomb of any kind.
That is true.
Like, this is his life's work, dude. It's like, I mean, technically, with all that gold there, maybe he'd be rich already, but I don't... It almost sounded, from what I've heard before, is that when you find a tomb, you have to call the government to, like, watch you dig it or something like that. So, maybe the country of Egypt was watching him closely, too?
I think that they were a colony of Britain at the time.
Oh, well...
So you would have had to call the British. Probably the British Science Foundation had to fucking steam her in for fucking 3 weeks. So
I'm just imagining like 30 redcoats marching down into the chamber. Halt, sir.
Yeah, I can imagine also this. You're saying he like waited all this time, like waiting all that time just to fucking lift that skirt. I imagine he did take his time. Like,
yeah. Oh, yeah.
I've been working this chick over for 5 years.
Now, I'm going to read this verbatim from basically describing them finally opening the coffin. So, it says, once they opened the coffin, inside they found another smaller coffin. The lifting of the lid of the second coffin revealed a third one made entirely of gold. On top of the third and final coffin was a dark material that had once been liquid and poured over the coffin from the hands to the ankles. The liquid had hardened over the years and firmly stuck the third coffin to the bottom of the second. The thick residue had been removed with heat and hammering. Then the lid from the third coffin was raised and finally revealed the mummy of King Tut. Now, the mummy had been in this chamber undisturbed for over 3,300 years since anybody had laid eyes on it. Like, that is insane, isn't it?
Yeah.
Like that. Can you imagine stumbling upon something that's been sitting there for that fucking long?
Yeah, it's crazy to think about how old Egypt is. Like, I heard this fact that, like, Cleopatra, which was the last pharaoh, is actually closer to our time than she is to the building of the pyramid. Like, well, that's how fucking old Egypt is.
Well, hold on. Now, there's, isn't there like 8 Cleopatras? There's a lot of them, I'm pretty sure.
I'm talking about the main one. The one from the Ptolemaic Yeah, the last one.
Yeah. Well, okay, let's do world history. So the Earth's 6,000 years old, right?
That means the pyramids were built 5 days after the Earth was created.
That was
You're
God's
correct.
first creation, was the pyramids, apparently.
Yeah.
Now, another crazy thing is King Tut was the first ever royal Egyptian mummy that had been found but remained untouched since their discovery, if that makes sense. So all the other ones had already been like kind of fucked with or looted previous to them being found by like an archaeologist or whatever. So I don't know how they hid him so fucking well, but I don't know. That's just crazy. Do you think in Egypt there's still maybe more pharaohs or something buried in there that like still haven't been found?
I mean, it's entirely possible. There was so much, like, you're talking about like thousands of years of history before they stopped making those tombs. So, like, it's entirely possible.
It's very fascinating. I feel like it'd be an archaeologist to be a very fun, but very fucking boring job at the same time.
Yeah, you'd have to be. I'm not that careful. I have a hard enough time like making shit, doing the shit now. Like mechanic work, like on cars and stuff.
Yeah.
Like I could not actually like do all of the like. They basically have to dig with like spoons and toothbrushes. Like it's so crazy to think how they did that shit.
Yeah, so monotonous, isn't it?
Yeah.
All right, so now we're gonna move on to basically a list of a shit ton of people who some people believe died because of the mummy's curse. Now, I think what might have gotten this started, I want everybody to keep in mind that the mummy curse thing was more of a tabloid thing that was started, I believe, in a London newspaper. Like, nobody really talked about a mummy's curse. They kind of perpetuated it through scare tactics and, I guess, yellow journalism, right?
Yeah, so when they found King Tut's tomb, it was, like I said before, it was fucking huge.
Mm-hmm.
Like, not only did they make up, well, I've never really heard that they made up the mummy's curse, like, themselves, but definitely, like, the whole, like, lore of King Tut. Like, he went from being, like, a minor king that, like, was really irrelevant and, like, basically impotent, like, as far as kings go, to they created him like he was the most legendary king of all time, of all Egypt.
Right.
Just because it was so huge of a find.
Now, what I was saying here was they didn't necessarily make up the curse, but this next sentence I'm going to read here, I believe they may have heard this and then kind of spun it. So they found a clay tablet in the antechamber that had a statement written that said, Death will slay with his wings whoever disturbs the peace of the pharaoh. Now, I could imagine them finding that and then kind of twisting it in a newspaper and kind of scaring everybody, because everybody wants to read about something, kind of mysterious and spooky, right?
Yeah, the supernatural.
Yeah, so in my mind, I could see them reading that and then just kind of running with it and just kind of creating the, quote, mummy curse or whatever. Because really, as far as I know, the mummy curse, you don't really hear about it until they found King Tut. And then obviously all these people died. And then you kind of connect the dots and be like, oh, they must have died from said curse.
Does it sound like they came up with the mummy curse before or after the people started dying?
Before.
Before, and then coincidentally people started dying. Okay.
Yeah, I'm almost positive that's how it is. One of the guys in particular, now that man in particular was Lord Carnarvon. It seemed like he was the first one to die. Now, the way he died is very interesting. Now, Lord Carnarvon had gotten a mosquito bite on his cheek. And then, while he was shaving, he cut it open. Okay, not too weird so far, but then he ended up dying of blood poisoning. I'm not sure. I mean, obviously medicine wasn't great around him this time, but I feel like a mosquito bite that got cut open, you shouldn't necessarily die of it. What do you think?
No, I mean, not someone who was wealthy. I could see someone with like poor hygiene who lived in like a ghetto, like a dirty burrow. You know what I mean? But like, not somebody who had probably, I'm guessing where he lived, he probably had running hot water at that time. So
probably. Well, there is a few things here. So if we remember, he was older and he was in Egypt because he was sick and he was trying to keep his lungs clear. So maybe he had a weaker immune system or whatever. But the interesting thing is he died just a few months after the tomb was opened, and he died before the press started reporting about the alleged mummy curse. And allegedly, this is huge air quotes, my fingers are air quoting so fucking hard here, that when he died at his house, all of a sudden all the power went out. That's what they said. Like, he died, power all went out. That's what they claim. That's what they claim. So, it's really feeding into like the mummy curse thing. So, we'll move on to a Mr. Sir Bruce Ingham. I think it's Ingham. So, Howard Carter had given his friend Sir Bruce Ingham a paperweight. Okay, everybody knows what a paperweight is. Now, this is a special paperweight because it was actually a mummified hand wearing that still had the bracelet attached, and allegedly the bracelet said, "Cursed be who moves my body."
That's so baller.
I know. Isn't that awesome? I'd want a fucking mummy hand for a fucking paperweight, dude.
Just to hold down your fucking papers and shit. That's great.
That'd be awesome if you had like the mummy hand as a paperweight, and then say it had like one long fingernail, and then you could use that as like a letter opener, so it's a multi-purpose thing.
Some dead guy's hand is your fucking multi-tool. That's awesome. That's such like an evil fucking rich person in the movie thing to do. Like, have a mummified hand that happens to be cursed as your fucking paperweight. Yeah, that's great. Just sitting on your fucking desk.
Well, he is a sir, so I'm assuming has some relevancy, right?
Oh, yeah. Well, you're a knight if you're a sir. So, I mean, it's not like normal assholes became knights back then.
Can you imagine if the Queen was under attack now, and she called upon who? Sean Connery, Elton John, Bono,
Captain Picard from Star Trek.
They all showed up rode on horses to defend her. That's a fucking death squad I wouldn't want to fuck with. Dude, they're all like 90.
Protect me, Sir Branson. Fly in your airline.
Oh God,
is he Virgin Airline?
Is he one of them too?
I think he's a sir. Yeah, Richard Branson. I think he's a sir.
I wonder if he's the only knight who's ever went to outer space.
Was he in outer space?
Yeah, don't you remember he bought like a ride on a space shuttle?
Oh, the Russian. Yeah. Okay, I do remember that.
Yeah, he might have been the only knight in space.
Could have been.
So anyway, now Bruce, he didn't die, but what happened to him was his house burned down. Allegedly, after receiving the mummified hand, his house burned down, and then he was in the process of rebuilding it, and then it was struck by a flood that wiped it out. So his wasn't necessarily killed him, but maybe he was cursed at bad luck that destroyed his house.
Did he check the mummified hand for a Zippo lighter?
I don't think so, but I could definitely see that happening.
Could have been the culprit.
Like, you just like push the thumb down and it lights your cigarettes for you.
Yeah, that'd be even better. That's a 3. Yeah.
I think
that's such a good thing.
I think we're sitting on like $1 million idea. Just make like fake mummy hands with bracelets attached that people can use for all sorts of stuff. This sounds pretty fun.
Letter opener, lighter. Whenever you want to challenge someone to a duel, you just hit them in the face with it.
See, when Sub D gets big enough, we have to have that as some merchandise.
That could be on a shirt. That'd be great.
Hell yeah. Hell yeah. All right, so moving on to George J. Gold. I think that's his name, George J. Gold. Now, he was a wealthy American financier and railroad executive who visited the tomb of King Tut in 1923 and fell sick almost immediately afterwards. He never really recovered and died of pneumonia a few months later. Now, this guy, I would say, possibly maybe the fungi or mold theory could have came into effect. I'm not really sure what happens to you when you inhale that stuff. You know what I mean? I don't really know what diseases you get.
Yeah, I'm not really sure. I know you get like a really bad cough and from like mold. And I think there's actually some mold that causes like neurotoxin kind of shit. So it like kind of drives you crazy a little.
Ugh. Well, I mean, the cold thing, pneumonia kind of fits along those lines. And I suppose in 1923, they didn't even really have an idea about what black mold was and stuff. Maybe they did. I don't really know. But anyway, he passed away. Now, the next one is Aubrey Herbert. Now, I'm assuming everyone assumes that's a lady, but that is actually a gentleman. And he was the half-brother of Lord Carnarvon. And he died just 5 months after Lord Carnarvon died. Now, what got Aubrey is he had a degenerative eye disease that later made him completely blind, right? So
Okay.
a doctor suggested that he had infected teeth, and that was what was causing his blindness or impaired vision. So Aubrey decided, hey, let's remove all of my teeth, and he was hoping to regain his vision. Obviously it didn't work because it doesn't work like that. But anyway, he died of sepsis as a result of the surgery. Now, this is like one of those kind of grasping at straws theory where he's the brother of Lord Carnarvon. He didn't visit the tomb or anything. He just happened to be associated with Lord Carnarvon. And then allegedly, because of the mummy curse, he died. So you can, I don't know. I feel like that's a stretch. What do you think?
It's a little bit of a stretch. I mean, I could see if the curse said that it would take out your entire family, but this dude had problems before. And I'm guessing a few of them, other ones had problems too. So,
Here's the thing. I don't know if you've ever had it, but I've had an infected tooth or whatever, and I had one that had to be removed. And, yeah, they fill you up with antibiotics when after it because it can obviously seep into like the wound. So obviously if this guy's getting all of his teeth removed, yeah, I'm not shocked that he died of sepsis afterwards.
oh yeah. Well, I mean, that's why they call medicine a practice, obviously, because that fucking doctor was just clasping at straws and he doesn't sound like the best doctor. I'm willing to bet that he's the one who probably did the surgery.
Oh, I'm sure. Remember, if you listen to Boom 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 Podcast, Phil, you probably remember Dr. Brinkley. This sounds like something he would have probably had done to Mr. Aubrey Herbert.
He would have also stuffed a goat testicle into his gut.
We're taking your teeth out. We're putting goat teeth in your mouth. You'll have your eyesight back in no time, sir.
Even though you're blind and have no teeth, you're going to be hard as a rock. Bitches are going to be lining up at your door, fucking tearing the shit down.
Like, Dr. Brinkley, I can't see. Yeah, but can you maintain an erection? Well, yeah, I just can't see. Anyway, so moving on to Evelyn White. Now, she was another British archaeologist who visited the tomb just after it had been discovered. Now, some even claim that she assisted in their excavation efforts, but that's not entirely confirmed. Now, according to legend, or according to the story, in 1924, she was seeing all these other people die. This is 2 years after they discovered the tomb. Now, she had hung herself, and the legend goes that she wrote a message in her own blood that said, "I have succumbed to the curse which forces me to disappear." I don't really know if that's confirmed that she wrote that or not, but that's kind of eerie if she did.
Yeah, that's,
We do know she
know.
hung herself for sure. We do know she hung herself for sure, but we don't know if she wrote a message in blood or not. But
yeah, it was like the Wild West of like mental illness, like discovery back then, like the study of it. So, they might not have automatically thought she was crazy.
Well, okay, think about this, what you said earlier about the mold or fungi or whatever, that it has a toxin that will drive you insane. What if she had that and she developed mental health issues and which led to her suicide? I could see that as like a connecting link. What do you think?
Oh yeah. She visited the tomb. Maybe she helped. I imagine it's just like when you see like those celebrity like build a home for charity type deals, and the pop star like hits a fucking board with a hammer and is like, I'm helping. You know, I'm guessing it was that shit. But if she did get in touch, like contact with that mold, and it got up in her fucking noggin, that might have had something to do with it.
Are you gonna sit there and tell me that when you see a Pittsburgh Steeler player out helping his community, he's just doing it for a tax benefit?
Oh, I didn't say anything about that. It's mostly about putting their fucking celebrity out there.
Right.
Yeah. Just making it seem like they're helping.
I think subliminal deception is working, Phil, because we took out Ben Roethlisberger for the year. Now he can sit at home and listen to all the subliminal deception episodes. So you're welcome, Ben.
This is a little off topic, but there are so many fucking rookie quarterbacks starting next week.
Yeah, I know.
Oh my god. Like everybody's out right now.
I know. Maybe that'll be a trend for this year.
It's like the replacements. You're just gonna watch your favorite team and be like, who the fuck's starting for them?
You know what's funny, actually? I just listened to it today. They were talking about all these older quarterbacks that are getting hurt, more like the pocket people. And you're obviously much bigger into college football. Like, we're getting into the zone where it's all the younger spread offense, like running quarterbacks.
Yeah, air raid is huge now. Yeah,
it's kind of like a weird transition. It's kind of neat to look at it from a distance. Anyway.
Yeah, I heard. Okay. Oh, I was going to say, I heard on the radio they're starting this weekend. It's something like, I think 10 air raid quarterbacks are going to be starting this weekend. So it's like a whole new fucking time for the sport.
Yeah, maybe people who like college will like pros more now, or we're like the pros or whatever now, you know what I mean?
Could be.
Anyway, continuing on. So, we're moving on to an American Egyptologist, Aaron Ember, which is a sweet last name.
Oh, yeah.
Now, he wasn't at the tomb, but he was a friend of several people who were there who had opened the tomb. Now, in 1926... just an hour after he and his wife had a party in their Baltimore home, it caught fire. Now, apparently they could have escaped safely, but his wife said, "Hey, Aaron, we can't go till you get your manuscript." And because he decided to try to get this manuscript, he died, his wife died, and the maid died in the fire. I'm kind of confused. Why didn't the maid leave? Like, okay, you guys stay here, play with your books. Why doesn't the maid leave?
Yeah, 27 cents an hour. I'm getting the fuck out of there.
She's like, I'm a fucking Bengals fan. I don't even like the goddamn Ravens. I'm out of here.
Dude, when you said manuscript, I kept thinking like those fucking Hollywood people who sit at Starbucks all day and are writing their screenplay. Like, oh my god, my rom-com. Upstairs.
Well, he's like, go get that rom-com. I heard Charlie Chaplin's coming to town in the next 6 months. Go get it.
I want to sneak it into his briefcase.
Now, actually, the name of his manuscript was the Egyptian Book of the Dead. So that's kind of where they link him to it, where he was messing. I don't know if maybe he had some sort of Book of the Dead text from Egypt or like something like that he was then converting into his own book. Maybe it's a curse that got him. I don't really know. They connect him somehow. But I still don't.
That curse has pretty long legs if it's going all the way around the world.
It just grabs anybody in sight, dude. It grabs anybody in sight. Now, we're moving on to Richard Bethel. Now, Richard was Lord Carnarvon's secretary, and he was the second person to follow Howard Carter into the tomb, which I'm going to assume that means that when Lord Carnarvon wasn't on site, he left Richard here to kind of watch people in his stead, I guess.
Yeah.
Now, what makes his weird is in 1929, he was found smothered in his room that was in an elite London gentleman's club. A paper later posted this. The suggestion that the Han Richard Bethel had come under the curse was raised last year when there was a series of mysterious fires at his home where some of the priceless finds from Tutankhamun's tomb were stored. So basically they're saying that maybe he had some of the items from King Tut's tomb in his room or something, and that's why he died, or like they're connecting all the fires that are in relation to where King Tut's shit from the tomb were going. This could be yellow journalism too, obviously.
Man, he lucked the fuck out. I mean, he happened to go into that tomb. Later on, he gets killed by a hooker, and all the newspapers are like, it was King Tut's fucking curse that got him. Like, no, it's probably a fucking syphilis-ridden whore. Like, I'm guessing that's who smothered him to death. He probably stiffed her on the tip.
I've never really
the money tip.
I've never really even heard of an elite strip club. Have you?
I'm guessing that they have probably better looking girls there, maybe.
Yeah, I wonder if like during this time it wasn't like basically a brothel. You know what I mean?
Maybe it's like a higher end brothel, because I imagine like the street level brothels are probably pretty fucking disgusting. Like you pay an extra fucking couple quid and you can get, premium fucking lay.
You know what I couldn't understand either? Richard Bethel, they always put H-O-N in front of his name, like Han, or maybe it's Honorable, or I don't know.
Honorable.
Is it Honorable? Richard Bethel? Yeah, so, interesting name on that fella. So yeah.
That's what U.S. congressmen, that's what they get, is their title is Honorable.
Well, what if they aren't honorable?
Well, most of them aren't, but
they get it anyway?
I think it's either them or it's judges, but I know somebody gets honorable. The honorable.
All right, you ready for another long stretch of the curse? So,
yeah.
Richard Luttrell Pilkington Bethel. God, that's a fucking name. 3rd Baron of Westbury, father of Richard Bethel, died on February 20th, 1930. He supposedly threw himself off his 7th floor apartment. So he died the following year after his son died. And they think that could have been in relation to the curse because he apparently jumped off the 7th floor of his apartment.
Okay.
So
there's a lot of by proxy fucking death here getting attributed to this curse. Like, you're getting into the fucking Kevin Bacon realm of this shit. There's a lot of degrees.
This is where I'm saying, like, I thought all these people died of like a specific illness or something, and once I started like digging in, they died of like things that are almost purely coincidental. They're just like a stretch.
Yeah.
So we'll move on to A.C. Mace. A member of Carter's excavation team died in 1928 from arsenic poisoning. Now that one could be maybe because he was actually in the tomb itself when he died of arsenic poisoning, but I guess...
Wasn't I know I'm going into what you guys talk about on Bumblebutt, but wasn't there a British female serial killer that was using arsenic at the time?
Around this time? No. She was in the 1800s. No, about 1928, they should have known what arsenic was and how poisonous it was. So,
they were probably still putting it in shit.
Yeah, his wife could have killed him. Some of his enemy could have killed him. Fucking anybody could have killed him. I don't know. He just died of arsenic poisoning. Maybe he just drank the wrong bottle. Who knows? But he was actually in the tomb, so you could maybe say, hey, this guy died of a curse. Maybe.
Yeah, he's not so much of a stretch because he actually went there.
Right.
So this one's a good one. I always thought that the Pharaoh's curse or King Tut's curse was it killed all of the people like in line of like when they went into the tomb. Like it killed the person who first went in there first and then second, third, fourth.
Nope, not in the least bit because we're saving Henry Carter for the very last. So you're going to find out what happened to him. Now, Sir Archibald Douglas Reed, all he was the radiologist who did x-rays of King Tut's body. Now, apparently he did the x-rays of King Tut's body, and the following day he fell ill, and then he died within 3 days. Now, this guy, I think you could say, hey, maybe he has something to do with the curse, or, like we said before, the, like, bacteria or the fungi or the fucking mold, because he would have been close up on the body. You know what I mean? So
yeah, I also wonder how many unprotected x-rays he did. Like nowadays they have to go behind like a lead-lined. Like back then he probably just stood there with a little cord and clicked the button.
So you're telling me he wasn't wearing a leaded vest or anything?
No, maybe a leaded jockstrap, but that's it. Just gotta protect what's important.
I could see someone coming in there and be like, hey, Archibald, you should really wear this so you don't die of cancer. You fucking pussy, I've been doing this for 20 years. Get out of here.
You know, that is funny because he was the one who took the nude pics of King Tut. Like, getting that fucking, seeing through all the wrappings. Getting a look at that question mark spine.
Well, yeah, anyway, his death is weird. I'll give him that. His death's weird. Now, this next guy, I couldn't barely believe this was actually his real last name, but apparently it's James Henry Breasted. His last name's Breasted. How would you like that last name?
You know, I wouldn't mind passing that on, you know.
Breasted?
Family motto. Breasted?
Yeah. I mean, I guess it's not terrible, but...
You'd have to, I mean, walking into a room, you'd have to stand up straight, be like real, you know, like, God damn it, my name's Breasted, you know? Like, someone couldn't ask you your name and be like, Breasted? They'd all laugh. You gotta fucking say it with vigor.
Can you imagine him being so mad when somebody calls him, like, James Henry Tits or James Henry,
It's Hancock now.
It's James, or what if his original name was James Henry, like, Floppy Tits or something? He's like, it's Breasted now, god damn it.
It's Breasted now. My people are proud.
So, he was another famous Egyptologist who was working with Howard Carter after the tomb opened. Now, according to James, after he went in the tomb and everything, he had a pet canary. Now, according to him, when he returned home, his pet canary had been eaten by a king cobra, and the cobra was now sitting inside the canary's cage, just sitting there. Now, why this is weird is because the cobra was a symbol for the Egyptian monarchy, and yeah, if you remember on their, I don't even know what you call their headgear, their hats, whatever, it had a cobra on it sometimes. So,
their headdresses.
Yes.
Yeah.
So what some people are saying is because the cobra ate his bird, it's like a warning sign that he shouldn't have been fucking around in King Tut's tomb.
Yeah, it sounds like he traded in his pet canary for a pet king cobra. Like, just, you got an upgrade.
I wonder where he was. He had to be in Egypt around this time to get a fucking cobra in his house,
yeah.
Right?
You're not picking that shit up on Piccadilly. Like, you're in Egypt. You're in Egypt for that. Yeah.
So is there king cobras in Pittsburgh?
There might be. I don't know. I definitely know there's got to be some backwoods shit, like some crocodiles or wild hog running around.
All right. Now, he didn't die from this, obviously. It was just strictly a warning. He did die in 1935, and he died right after he had just returned home from Egypt. So, probably not in regards to the King Tut curse or whatever.
Yeah.
And now we're going to get to our very last guy, Howard Carter. You would think he'd be the one who would die more than any of them because he was, like you said, like you were saying, he was the first guy in there. He was the guy leading the charge. Like,
yep.
But yeah, he lived a full life. He didn't die. I mean, he died of cancer when he's like 76 or something like that. But the worst that he said he had experienced was he had nightmares about jackals and stuff related to Anubis, obviously the Lord of the Dead or whatever. But otherwise, he was fine. Never got fucked with. Never nothing. So basically, when you kind of search for the story, there's essentially within a 10-year period, 10 people in regards to King Tut's tomb had died that they kind of correlate with a curse. Basically kicking off with Lord Carnarvon. So
could you imagine being that guy? Carter, the dude who first walked in there, and all of these people are dying, like by proxy or like immediately, like we're in the tomb. They're all dying. You'd have to look around every corner, like just thinking that your number was up every time you got out of bed.
Right.
Like I couldn't imagine that. Like having this, like the threat of this curse, like fucking just above your head all the time. This fucking Damocles shit, like every day.
Okay.
Of course, he might not have believed it, but
so I'm putting a conspiracy theory in here. Now, I'm gonna spin the theory here. What if, because of all the wealth that was in the tomb, Howard Carter hired a very, well, maybe not very young, like a time-traveling Barry Soetoro, aka Barack Obama, to assassinate all his competition so then he could get all the gold, and then after Obama was done, then he returned to the future.
That is a good point. I didn't even think about that.
I know when I was writing this, I was like, how the hell are we going to weave Obama into mummy curses in 1922? How are we going to pull this off? But basically, we can put him anywhere because he's a time traveler.
That is true. Well, I mean, he also did have motive, too, because you did say that there was king cobras involved.
Yes.
King cobras are reptiles. So he could think that he's moving against the reptilian order by going against the pharaohs who use the king cobra as their sigil.
Right.
Could be that.
What if it was
Go ahead. We also haven't even discussed how Gordon Ramsay got involved with this either.
Well, maybe he was the chef on site for the excavation, and certainly for the guy who died of arsenic poisoning, maybe Chef Ramsay gave it a little too much spice for that guy, and he died.
Gordon Ramsay is British.
See? There we go. He's got it. He was cooking them black mold souffle or something, and they just all happened to die of it. What if he was using the mummified hand to, like, stir his sauce while he was cooking dinner for him?
Everyone's like, oh, what's that taste? He gets pissed off because they spit it out. Takes out his Tommy gun. Blames it on the curse.
I really want to see him, like, on the grill, like flipping camel steaks or something with the mummified hand. Be like, here's how you test if it's like medium rare or not. You just kind of stick the finger in there, and then depending how easy it goes in there is how you know your meat's cooked, guys.
I don't remember what the movie's name is, but there was this movie, Mark Wahlberg and The Rock, where they were telling The Rock, who was like jacked up on cocaine at the time.
Oh yeah.
To burn the fingerprints off of the hands. So he like took the grill outside and was like burning these hands on the grill, and like everyone was like staring at him. It just reminded me of that. I forgot what that fucking movie's name was though, but
I actually think I heard the real story of that not that long ago. The movie's pretty far off from it, but yeah, I can't remember it. I remember I watched that with you when I was visiting in England. I'm almost positive.
Yeah.
But anyway, so Phil, do you think that there's any possibility that King Tut left a curse off that slowly wiped out the party that found his tomb? Or do you think this is just merely a string of coincidences?
Well, I think 100% that the people who buried King Tut thought that they were leaving a curse. There's 100% of that.
Oh, yes.
Was there an actual curse? Possibly for the people who actually immediately, like, actually went in there themselves. But I don't think all these by proxy deaths were, because they seem like it's a stretch.
Yeah.
But there are some who died of weird circumstances who actually like walked in there. When I thought of like what I heard of the King Tut's curse, like I said before, was people who immediately went in there died in sequence, like you would see in a horror movie. But
no. It'd be more compelling if that was the case.
Yeah, this takes a little juice out of the whole thing for me. We do that a lot on these episodes.
Yes, absolutely.
We take a lot of these. I think we break a lot of people's hearts on these episodes, but I'm going to give it a solid 1%.
That's a curse?
That there's a curse and it was killing people. But not the by proxy people, just the immediate people.
No, I think I'll go with you, probably less than 1% that it's a mummy's curse. I think there's a probability that it had some black mold or something that might have poisoned them, or like in the lady who hung herself, maybe it was something that kind of eroded her brain eventually, or something like that. Like, it's just the paper started the mummy curse, and then everybody wants to connect the dots any way they possibly can to kind of make that true, because frankly, a mummy curse is kind of cool. A mummy, like, that's the whole reason we do the episode, is because a mummy curse is fucking cool, and I'm not afraid to say I thought The Mummy and The Mummy Returns were good movies. I don't care what anybody says, so.
Brendan Fraser originals.
Yep. Those are good movies. Those are fun movies. They have mummies. They have mummies coming back from the dead. They have mummy curses. Mummy stuff's pretty cool. But yeah, I don't think that it's connected like a curse. I think it's just merely a string of coincidences. People die. It happens. But anyway.
What if, I was going to say, what if in the tomb that they opened, like, there could have been some ancient bacteria that was, like, extinct now, but possibly, woke up. Could have been something like that. I just had a weird little thought. But.
That's a good point, because aren't they afraid that's going to happen is it Russia, where, like, it's, the ice the permafrost is melting, and then underneath is, like, woolly mammoth carcasses and all sorts of shit, and they think once that melts, it's gonna, like, release these, like, diseases and shit that have been frozen in there forever.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, they're worried about that. They're worried about, the rainforest the deforestation of the rainforest. Like, all of the fucking bacteria and shit that's hiding in there. All of the viruses coming out. Like, they're worried about that shit, too. And also meteors coming in here with panspermia.
Well, at least Barack Obama will save us from meteors. We don't have to worry about those. Now,
for a price, of course.
It's going to be like real life Armageddon. There'll be 8 Barack Obamas up there. They'll all have traveled to the same timeline, gotten a ship, and fought off an asteroid. Now, Phil, if someone wants to contact us about their theories on King Tut, where can they do that?
Well, first of all, our email, subliminaldpodcast@gmail.com. I was telling Cody before the episode, we actually got an email from a fan. Said that we were actually his favorite podcast on the internet, and he said that he thought that we were the best podcast. So thank you for that, Jamie. That was great.
That's
Joe Rogan, go to hell, I guess.
Jamie, send Joe Rogan an email that says you ain't got shit on Sub D. No, but thank you very much, Jamie. That's awesome. He's our first emailer, isn't he?
Yep, first email. We get a lot from Instagram, like we said before, but the first one from the email. So yeah. We're also on Instagram, I just mentioned, Subliminal Deception Podcast on IG. Cody and I both have our own. Mine's SD Pod Phil. Cody, yours?
Mine is, my personal one's Cody's the Bub. You can go ahead and add me. I think a few people have been adding me, so thank you for that. And then you can check out my other podcast, Bumblebop Podcast, on Instagram, or search for it on your favorite podcasting application. The last thing we need you to do, or we ask you to do, is to log into iTunes or Apple Podcasts. Leave the show a 5-star review. Doesn't matter really what you write in there. You can write, my last name's Breasted, whatever it is, just make sure it's 5 stars. And I know some of you have been doing it, so thank you very much for that. Otherwise, I think that's going to do it for this week, Phil. So why don't we get out of here?
All right. Thanks, guys.